Alright guys, I got some breaking news for everybody on this disgusting, gross, rainy day in Virginia. I apologize if you can't hear me that well. I had to go outside to do the video, and I can't really do anything about the rain noise. But anyway, so updates coming out of Israel and Palestine. A Greek Orthodox church was just bombed by the IDF. The church is in Gaza City. Apparently 16 people are dead. The church and a bunch of other religious officials got together and did a press conference and basically condemned the bombing campaign and said, hey, you guys got to cut this out. Innocent people are getting hurt day in and day out, and they're being killed day in and day out. Now, what's sort of extra egregious about this is it's not even generating that much news. I mean, I guess you could say with the hospital bombing that happened the other day, with a death toll that's in the hundreds, it potentially shattered everybody's outrage meter. And so now when only 16 people get killed in a bombing of a church, it doesn't make as big of a splash. But I don't know, man, that seems like a big deal, and it seems kind of important, and it should be huge news. So speaking of that hospital bombing, we have some other breaking news coming out about that. Now, there was a huge raging debate about who was behind that bombing campaign. Now, I did a very detailed segment on Secular Talk with all of the evidence that we had available at the time. Highly recommend you guys go check that out because I think I did a pretty thorough job in explaining my position and explaining what the evidence showed. But now we have a new piece of evidence to share with you. So, the University of London's forensic architecture team and a veteran war crimes investigator named Cobb Smith, they did their own investigation, and according to them, it looks like it was an Israeli airstrike. And they go into some detail here, and they explain exactly what sort of a missile or a bomb could have done that kind of damage, and also be consistent with the size of the crater that was in the ground in the parking lot of the hospital. But they say, according to them, and they argue, hey, this is not completely conclusive. We'd like to look at more evidence. But they say the evidence they have at the moment leans them in the direction of, yes, this was an Israeli airstrike. And look, my overall take, and again, go watch the original video, but, I mean, Occam's razor is pretty strong. And the Occam's razor position is, of course, it was the IDF that bombed them, because they openly dropped over 6,000 bombs already in Gaza by that point. And then now, as I'm talking to you, it's probably 7,000, 8,000, maybe more. The bombing hasn't stopped. The death toll is over 4,000, at least 1,000 children dead. And even if you say, hey, Kyle, I don't believe those numbers because we don't have any journalists on the ground in Gaza to verify it. Well, let's say, okay, let's cut the numbers in half for argument's sake. Well, you still have 2,000 people dead and 500 children dead, which were already in the range of surpassing Operation Protective Edge, which happened in 2014, which everybody universally agrees was an absolute war crime. Okay, so more stuff for you on this. Saudi Arabia's crown prince came out and argued for the establishment of a Palestinian state on the 1967 borders. Now, the reason why this is actually kind of important is that his previous position, remember, he was in peace negotiation talks with Israel to formally normalize their relationship. His old position was, you need to try to ease the suffering of Palestinians. And then now, in a press conference, basically this bombing campaign from the IDF has now pushed him over the edge, and he says, no, my new position is we need the 1967 borders. Now, beyond that, Netanyahu's government has approved regulations that allow temporary shutdowns of foreign news channels on the grounds of national security. His communication minister is currently trying to shut down Al Jazeera. That's a big deal. Remember, guys, this is literally what Vladimir Putin did inside Russia after he launched his invasion of Ukraine, his illegal invasion of Ukraine. Okay, and finally, I got some numbers for you when it comes to the public. These are probably somewhat surprising, but Americans want a ceasefire. Americans want a ceasefire. So among all likely voters, 66% agree that the U.S. should call for a ceasefire and de-escalation of the violence in Gaza. Democrats, 80% of Democrats say ceasefire now. 57% of independents say ceasefire, and even 56% of Republicans say ceasefire. So in other words, we are past the tipping point. We're past the tipping point. And I think there's been enough bombing and enough death and enough innocent civilians caught in this mess where even though the initial polls showed, rightly so, that people were really sympathetic to Israel because they experienced a horrific, brutal terror attack that killed over 1,000 of their civilians. Everybody sympathized with them. But now it seems like everybody's getting it, that the reaction is for Israel to kill massive numbers of civilians in Gaza, which is, of course, condemnable and criminal. So anyway, there's some updates for you guys. I'll keep my eye on it. We'll see if we do another update segment or not. I'm not sure yet. But certainly on the show on Monday, we will almost certainly have another update on this conflict. And remember, guys, join Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack, $5 a month. And you'll get the full debate, discussion, interview we had with Cenk Uygur. That drops tonight. We already have some teaser clips that got up. And remember, you could even sign up for free, and you get the audio podcast version of that interview, and you get it on Saturday. But definitely, highly recommend checking it out. It was over 2 hours long, the full thing. The interview was probably like an hour and 30 minutes or so, but highly recommend you check that out. And we'll keep our eye on what's happening here, too.